My name is Joe Blair and welcome to the wonderful world of stand-up paddleboarding. I wanted to show you a few tricks here that helps you along in your stand-up paddleboarding a bit. What you want to do is you want to stand on the board right in the middle nice, and then practice this on land. Put your hand here, right here, in the water. Right here, in the water. Put your hand here in the water. This might seem a bit elementary, but when you're losing your balance, what happens when you lose your balance, you have a tendency to go like this. And that's samurai sword fighting the ghost. You want to get that back in the water as quickly as possible. So practice this on land. It seems elementary, like this. But when you're racing and you want to race, you want to keep the stroke going. So you want to keep it going like this. You want to keep it going when you're racing. And you want to try that on your stand-up paddleboard too, is practice racing on the thing like that. Also, I've got a little rim around here. And you can buy these at Pep Boys, and you just want to put this on here and run it around the edge right here. And then if you can find some more, some type of thicker tape, and then run this, keep running up along here, because you can ding your board hitting the paddle here. And the most important reason for having this blade on here is to protect you, because if you fall on your board, you can cut yourself. Second thing is to protect your board. You don't chip it up. And you also protect the paddle, because you'll have it somewhere and it'll fall when you hit the rocks or something like that. Another important factor too is if you ever fall, you want to take your arm and stiff arm out like this. You know, because if you get it too loose when you fall, you can whack yourself in the head. So keep that stiff when you fall. And always remember to do this really quickly and keep that paddle in the water, because when you're out there losing your balance, you're going to forget to do that. And the most important thing I say is keep the paddle in the water moving. Always keep this moving, because it's like a kickstand. You take a little sweep and you got major rigidity right there. For our first lesson here, we want to work on our balance on the board here. And you want to center yourself as you get up. And then as you paddle along, you want to run the paddle right alongside the edge of the board. Now here we're going to try it again. If you notice, I want to get centered here. You want to put your feet right where the handle is on the board right there. And one thing about a board is if you stand up a little bit further on it, the board will have more balance and paddle straighter, especially on the shorter boards. And you want to always look at the horizon as you paddle. Stand up straight, look at the horizon. Now this technique that I'm doing here really works well. You want to paddle backwards. You want to stand up straight. You want to look at the horizon. Stay loose. You know, feel the ocean floor as it moves. And you want to do this and do 3 of these things. 3 360s backwards. Now we're looking up, we're looking straight ahead at the horizon. You don't even want to look at your board, and feel that. Just little paddles. Always keep that paddle in the water. Always keep the paddle. Now we're going to switch and we're going to do it another 3 360s backwards, because anybody can just paddle a board straight. This is a great technique for learning your balance at first. You want to try this after paddling a board for 10 minutes. If you notice, I just fell right then, pretending like I was falling. And I stuck that paddle in the water and swung it. It was a kickstand, and that thing uprighted me. So when you lose your balance, don't go up in the air with the paddle. Take that thing and bring it straight down into the water. And I never can say this enough, is if you're near choppier conditions, that paddle is your kickstand. You keep it in the water. You keep it moving. Run it right alongside that board. That's what keeps your balance, is keeping that paddle in the water moving. The rigidity is very strong when you keep it moving like that. And always stand up straight, look at the horizon. If you notice, I put the paddle in the water, and look how nicely it turns back around. One stroke. And you want to practice all this stuff. And then a really fun thing to do is for racing. The reason why I showed you at first is switch your paddle back and forth quickly. Because when you really want to get going fast, you can switch over and you don't break your rhythm. You just keep that paddle moving, and then you can. And what I'm doing here, if you've noticed, I just paddled down the river 20 times on one side, and I didn't switch sides. And that's by leaning on the side you paddle. As you paddle, you want to lean on the side that you paddle on. We'll do one more run here. And now as you lean a little bit, let off, lean, let off, lean, let off, lean, let off. And this way you can get, and if you notice how many times I paddle on one side, when I came across. And this is why it's important to learn to switch your paddle to one side or the other. It's just keep that paddle moving. That's what keeps your balance. And it's a lot of fun just to race these, pretend like you're in a race, and get that board moving. You can see there's a rhythm to it, when you start paddling. There's a total rhythm to it. But like, watch how many times I paddle on one side here. And then you can just keep paddling. See, you lean on the side you paddle, lean on the side you paddle, and let off. Now I'm going to go into another technique here that's really, really great for your balance. And this also works extremely well when you are going to learn how to wave ride. So you step on the back, and this turns the board very quickly. This thing you want to practice a lot, especially when you start learning how to ride waves. If you step on that tail, then the nose comes up, it pivots. Now here I'm going into a goofy foot stance and doing it. See that? And that turns the board very quickly. The further you step on the tail, we can spin a 180 with just one paddle, but the board state is a little bit more in balance. Of course, doing this in the ocean is a lot more trickier, and this is where you want to practice this. But you step on the tail, and this is a great exercise in lakes to learn your balance. You can do this if you're a regular foot, and you can do it in the goofy foot. See, I'm regular foot. If you can do that in the goofy foot, your balance becomes really well. And this will prep you for being able to ride waves in the ocean, because you want to be able to paddle right over to a wave and then spin it really quickly and take off. Otherwise, you'll never get your the right position for wave riding. And if you notice here, I did this little jump here. You'd be riding a wave, and then when you kick out, you can jump right into that stance. But all this is great exercise out there for learning your balance, because you can paddle all day long. I have a technique here that I like to show you in case you get caught in any trouble, or your legs get tired, or the wind's blowing and you get caught. This is kind of a safety thing. Plus, it's great exercise to do this, even if you're just out paddling around the lake. Just try lay down and do this technique so you can get yourself out of harm's way, or if you're resting or anything. So what you do is you just take the paddle and you go down on your knees like this. You put the paddle right here, and then you put your chest right here on the paddle here, like this, and then you paddle like this. And this is just great exercise. See how your back's arched, and then you're rotating around like this? You're rotating like that. That's a great exercise to do this. And this way, and you can even paddle through some waves like this if they're not too big. You just arch back and you'll go over the waves like that.